Everyone, Nicole Steckline, technical agronomist for DeKalb and Asgrow in Northeast Iowa, and stuff is turning fast. Most of it obviously is because of lack of rain, plus a week of really high temperatures, and a lot to do with soil type. But today I want to explore what is turning some of these side hills in good soils, why we're getting some patches of dead corn in there, because I'll go through areas that maybe have had an inch or two of moisture more than everybody else, and soils with good water holding capacity, and we're having areas die, and it's not because it's a sand knob. So here's what we're finding in those spots. So here's a really nice example of a plant that I'm talking about here. So this is doing what we call ghosting out, which means that it's a ghost and some of its peers are still green. So this is a plant that died early. It has its ear turned down. What we want to do is pull these leaves back so that we can expose the stalk, both top and bottom. And we've got some white here. You can just rub that off. That's probably just some opportunistic fungus that was growing where it had a little bit of moisture between those leaves. You can see some discoloration down here. And as we go to the top of the plant, you can find kind of this splotchy black. So what can be tough in these situations is trying to figure out what came first. When you have a plant that's this far gone, once it starts to go downhill, everything else can kind of tend to pile on. So this might be a case where we've got some anthracnose top dieback. So anthracnose has a stalk rot version as well as a top dieback version. So the top dieback version, obviously the top dies back. You get these black splotches. My guess would be that if it was truly anthracnose stalk rot, you would be finding those down here in the rest of the stalk as well. Now, when we open up that stalk, the bottom actually isn't in too bad a shape. If it was stalk rot first, it would probably be just a lot of the vascular tissue and probably not a whole lot of pith left. We've also got a very brown discolored crown. Again, it's tough to know what happened first, if it was a chicken or an egg type of deal. So here we've got a plant that is probably primarily a crown rot, where instead of that top actually turning brown and then dying, it almost looks like frost damage, where you've still got like that dried green tissue look to it. Also, when you look at the upper part of the stalk, it's still green, it's still got some life to it, but when you get to the bottom, that's where you see the discoloration first, is the bottom, and more of this top still has that green look to it. The leaves were green and then just died as opposed to turning brown. Now, when we split this guy open, the stalk isn't in too bad of shape. You've still got a lot of pith left. It's not too vascular. The problem is when you get down closer to the crown, there's not much left of that crown in there. Tough to see. Sorry, my bad. It's really hollow down in there. Also seeing a little bit of that pink discoloration, if you can tell that. A little bit of pink. Getting kind of a pink discoloration is very, very characteristic of Fusarium, possibly even Gibberella. But Fusarium's going to be a little bit more common in our area. So this one probably started as a crown rot, caused that plant to die early. It's got a small ear on it. And we're going to have some standability issues because this is going to turn into stalk rot eventually. Here is a ghosted out plant. We are not seeing any of those black splotches from anthracnose, so it's probably not anthracnose top dieback. We still even have some color in the stalk here, but as we go down the stalk, we are getting those characteristic anthracnose black splotches. So this one, more than likely, was just a straight up good old-fashioned anthracnose stalk rot. When we open that up, we're getting very vascular, particularly down towards the crown. The other thing that you can notice is that along the edges here, the margins of that stalk, of that node, that's where we're starting to get a lot of that rot first. Another thing that I noticed when I opened that up is almost just a little bit of pink color in here. So it probably got that crown infection coming in as well. We've got another anthracnose plant. But when you look down further, we've still got some green. We've still got some good in the in the lower node of this plant. Most of the infection is occurring in the bottom part of this stalk. As we make our way to the top, it's just getting here where, I mean, it's not quite as bad up here yet. Most of that is most severe down here. So again, this one was probably stalk rot first. Crown still looks good. And now we're finally starting to get that top guy back. So sometimes it can be a little bit confusing, right? Because these are fungal pathogens and we haven't had moisture. So why are we having problems with fungal diseases? And particularly when you think about crown rots and stalk rots, the thing is about opportunity. And in many cases, these plants were probably infected weeks, months ago, particularly when you think about the crown rot. These were probably infected as it was starting to come out of the ground, but it just kind of sits there until that plant gets so stressed out. And in many cases, grain fill is enough of a stress, but when you add environmental stress on top of the stress of grain fill, it just absolutely lets loose. Now, all of that to say, what I want you guys to be doing is push tests, as well as going out there and making a prioritization plan so that we aren't chasing down corn all season long, because this is going to happen really fast. So just know what's going on in your fields. Talk with your seed dealer about what might be some hybrids that are going to be more susceptible to this kind of thing. Look at places where maybe you planted very first and maybe they had a struggle coming out of the ground. That means that they're higher likelihood of having these infections. But make a harvest plan, stick to it so we don't have to chase after down corn. In these areas where you don't have some of the rots, we're still going to have pretty weak stalks because of a lack of nutrient uptake, because of a lack of water. So once again, go out and do your push tests, make a prioritization list, and let's get after it. We're all in this together. If you have any questions, call, text, or email.